What we're doing is we're going to try to make ourselves some Harry Potter wands. It's really easy. So what we're going to do is you can get yourself a stick from outside, or what are called dowel rods that are made of wood, or chopsticks work really well. You want something that's probably around a foot long, just because it gives you some room to work with. And you can do anything you want to it. If you can get someone you know, an adult, to cut it down to size that's more appropriate for you, you can do that, or you just work with the whole thing. It's your wand, make it however you want. But what we do, so you get yourself a wand, and what we're going to do is we want to texture it up. We want to make it look bigger than it is, make different shapes and things like that. So what we do is with a glue gun, which they are hot, so you're probably going to want a grown-up to help you with that. The one I have is kind of a big one. There are smaller ones that don't get as hot. Those are good to use too. We just need the glue. So once it's hot enough, which my little light is on, yes, we take it and we start texturing it. So you think about how you want it to look. Think about where your hand is, where the handle is, and we just start applying bits of glue to the wand. And you could make patterns on it, you could make it thick in certain places, but we just gotta put as much on there as you want, because this is gonna make the texture. It's gonna make it look like not a skinny piece of wood. So we just go all over it wherever you want. Now just watch, the glue is hot, so we don't want to burn ourselves. Now while the glue is hot, you can stick things to it. So if you have sparkles or little gems or anything you want to stick on there, you stick it on while it's still hot, and then they'll stick. The only thing you can do is, because it's hot, it's almost liquidy, so if you kind of just let it drip, you'll get neat different patterns. If you want it to speed up a little and cool it down, you can blow on it. And then once it's cool, it can be touched. Usually leave a little bit at the bottom where I don't put any glue on it, because that's where my fingers are. And we just see if it's still a little tacky. We're gonna wait. And if you're gonna make a bunch of them, if you want to take a piece of cardboard or something and kind of stick your wands in there, so you can make a whole bunch real fast. And then once they are, you're okay with the shape, once it cools, you can add more and just make bigger and bigger layers, bigger chunks. You can make swoops and curls. And things you can think about is, just like if you had a baseball bat or a tennis racket, golf club, there's always kind of a part on the bottom where your hand goes so it doesn't slip off. You wouldn't want to be in the middle of a wizard duel and your wand flies out of your hand because your hands are sweaty. So once you kind of put some things down at the bottom where your fingers will go so you don't slip. Wait for it to cool. And once it's cool, then we can start painting it. Things you can do, any kind of household craft paint will work. Because it is kind of plasticky, you're going to have to put on more than one coat of paint. because it'll look thin. So you just keep painting it until it gets the way you want it to look. A quick way to do it is you can use spray paints. They can be a little messy, so you definitely want to do them outside with supervision. But once it's cool, then you get a lot of texture on the wand, which are a little easier to see once it starts to cool. And then once it's cool enough, then you can start painting. So if we set this guy down, it doesn't get any sticky parts on anything. Like I said, any kind of paint will work. Usually a good thing to do first after you shake up your paints is a good base coat. You usually kind of pick the color of the wand you want. So if you're thinking something made of cedar, which is a little red, or oak, which is kind of yellowy, you start with that. Now most of your craft paints are usually pretty watery, so you really don't need to add any water to it if you don't want to. Adding water to it will make it flow really quickly, really fast, but it'll be thin. You'll have to do more coats. Once it's dry, once the glue is dry, you just start putting your paint on. And it doesn't have to be, you can't mess it up. It's your wand. It makes it unique against anyone else's. So you just put the paint wherever you want. And just cover it. And you don't have to get it in. If there's parts that you miss with the base coat, that's fine. We're gonna do some other techniques for painting, dry brushing and highlighting that are gonna fill in those spots, and it can make it look a little bit like it's got dirt kind of stuck on it, like it's something that's gotten used. Doesn't look like it just came out of the factory. Okay, and while that one is drying, I had gone out and I took one of my other rods and did a spray paint coat on it. So you can see if you spray paint the rod first, the color will come through the glue because the glue is clear. I'm gonna do this one a little different than the other one. This one I'm gonna put some patterns down the shaft of the wand, which is kind of difficult sometimes when you've got a big glue gun. The smaller craft glue guns are actually a little bit better at it, putting patterns onto it. But you just put little marks, maybe circles, half moons, whatever you want. And you can cool things down faster if you put a small fan or something nearby that you can kind of hold your hot glue in front of it. It'll cool down a lot faster. So if you kind of set everything up right, you can make a whole lot of wands real fast.
What is your record?
Well, in one sitting, I've probably made about 40 or 50 probably. I could probably make about 25 an hour if you really, really want to.
That's impressive.
Okay, so this one, because I painted already first before I put the glue on, the glue takes on the color of the paint underneath it. So then if you then go over it with the base coat, kind of highlights, gets only the high spots. So you get the low spots with a different color than the high spots. this side to dry. See, the other one is pretty much dry. Craft paint dries pretty quick. So if you can see it, you can still kind of see a faint kind of yellowy clearness where the paint hasn't covered the glue a whole lot. But we go over it again and you keep painting it until it's your desired color. And if you like the way it looks after that first coat, then leave it there. It's your wand, you do it however you want. Then it makes yours different from everyone else's. So, those guys there have now their base coats on there. What we're going to do next is a way to kind of bring out the shapes and the differences in the way the glue sits on the wand. We're going to do highlighting and dry brushing. Dry brushing is a technique where basically what we're going to do is we're going to load a paintbrush with paint. So in this case we're going to dry brush here with a bit of gold paint. You can dry brush with anything, any paint, any color, whatever you wish. What we do is usually a short brush that's got stiff bristles is good, but any brush will do. You just take a little bit of paint into the brush and then take some newspaper or paper towel or something and you just kind of rub the paint off until there's still just a tiny bit of paint left in the brush. And then we don't press hard, we just drag the brush across the high points and it will leave a tiny bit of paint left on those high points. Kind of all the places where if you had, say, a wand in your pocket where the lint will stick to it, where the dirt from anything in there sticks to, it'll stick to those places that stick out and it gives it some definition. Brush across the high points, and then those spots earlier that you couldn't make out so good will come out a lot more. So if you compare the two, where there isn't any dry brushing, you can see the edges a lot better. Now that was just one go over one time. You can keep doing it until you're satisfied with the way it looks. You switch colors, you can mix it up, you do whichever you like. And if you get too much paint on there and you get a little too much, you don't like that, go back over it with the base color. Your wand doesn't care how much paint you put on it. You just keep going until you like the way it looks. Yeah, that's pretty good. So what we can do, we'll set him aside. Yeah, this one's probably just about dry. So what we'll do is, another thing to do, I didn't grab it. Is there black paint over there? You've kind of highlighted and you've gotten those high points kind of looking the way you want and the base color is the way you want. We want to kind of, all those little nooks and crannies where dirt might trap, we want to make it look like maybe dirt's trapped in there. If you take a dark color like black or gray or another dark brown, and if we mix it with a little bit of water so it gets kind of really runny, because we kind of want this to just flow. Then we can kind of just paint on dark that black. But we don't let it dry. We don't want the whole wand to be black, unless you do. You can definitely do that. Then what we do is we wipe it off. We wipe off the black. And the black will stick in all the low places and not on the high places. So when it dries, it makes shadows. And we can go back in. Any place we want to touch up, we can touch up. Dry. And this guy, he's pretty dry now. Some more brushing, you just load the brush up, wipe the excess off, and then just drag it across the surface and catch all the bumps. And then other things you can do, if you want to put something like sparkles or anything on the surface, you can do it now. You just put a little dab of glue and stick the things on that you want. You can use, take like Elmer's glue, white glue, and mix it with about like half glue, half water, and you can mix that up and pour it on top, and then dump if you want sprinkles. If you want sparkles or something like that on it, you put the glue over it, and then put your little bits or jewels or what you want on it, and then let it dry. The glue will dry clear and leave the things on it. So you won't see the glue, but you'll just see the things you put on. We just have to let it dry, and then you can keep just adding more layers, more colors. You just always want to make sure before you add the next one, you want to make sure that the layer before is dry. If you don't, when you go to put on the new paint, you might pull the old paint off because it's wet, and it will stick to the new wet paint, and then you'll just pull the paint off. So you got to make sure it dries in between each layer, and then move on. Same thing with the glue. If you want to add more glue to make more bumps and ridges, you have to wait until the first glue is dry. Always, put your paint, your liquid down, let it dry, then go and do the next step. Just to make sure that it's dry and will stay. Okay. That's basically making a wand. They're really easy to do. You can do a whole lot of them real fast. There are some more advanced techniques that we can get into, but right now this is just kind of a quick basic wand you can make at home. Shouldn't take you more than 15-20 minutes kind of the first time, and once you start making them, you can crank them out real fast. You get your rhythm down. So there you go. We got 2 wands pretty quick. Once they're completely dry, I'll paint them a little bit more, but that's what these guys look like. I have some other ones, you can see what they look like.
Right behind you in the box, yeah.
So, once you start making a bunch, it can look pretty neat. So these guys are all different ones I made, the different colors for different woods. So again, they're all just dowel rods with hot glue and paint that I shaded and dry brushed to kind of bring out the different nooks and crannies. But yeah, once you start, they're real quick, and you can make a whole bunch. These guys, I made labels for them so that you can tell what length, what wood, what core. But you can make them whatever size you want, however big you want. But they're real fun. They're real easy. But that's basic wand making. Possibly we can do more advanced ones later on. But
how did you get the points?
oh, okay. So if you notice, the ones that I made here do not have points. They are just flat on the ends. These that I've created before do have points on them. I cut the points onto these wands. So if that would be something you want to do, please have a grown-up supervision to do that. It does involve sharp tools, so we don't want anybody to cut themselves. The other option, if you go to like the dollar store or Walmart and buy a pack of chopsticks, chopsticks are already pointed at the ends, so you don't have to do anything to them. So you don't have to worry about that. So if you use chopsticks or have a grown-up cut them for you, you can get a point at the end. Otherwise, as dowel rods come when you buy them, they are flat on both sides.
Would you suggest doing that before you start painting them?
Yes, if you would want a point on your wand, that's something you kind of prep at the beginning before you've done anything else, because you don't want to paint it or put glue on it and then cut away things you've already done. So yeah, anything you're doing to the wood itself should be done first, and then glue, and then paint.
And for parents out there that might be watching with their kids, what works well to make that point if the child wants the point?
Sure. There's a couple different ways. If you use an X-Acto knife or like a utility knife, that works if you're comfortable with it. If you go to a hardware store and find a pencil sharpener that carpenters use, they're usually a little stronger. Dowel rods are, depending on what size you buy, are roughly the size of a pencil. So you can fit them in a pencil sharpener and sharpen them that way. You can also simply, if you take it outside and just rub it on the sidewalk until you get the point you want, or sandpaper, but you can get points that way. Again, the easiest thing, buy chopsticks. You can get a pack of 25 for like $1, and then you don't have to worry about anything. It's already there. And bamboo takes paint really well. Sometimes the dowel rods, depending on where you buy them, may have a coating on them because they were made for like home improvement. They might be for a project they didn't intend people to make wands with them, so they may have a coating on them. So yeah, honestly, easiest thing is chopsticks. You can buy them on the internet, you can buy them at dollar stores. It's the quickest, cheapest, easiest way to get a wand that's already pointed. Now, if you wanted different length wands, then you would have to cut those. So either way, you're going to end up probably having to cut them with some sort of small saw or something like that. Depending on how big they are, you might be able to cut through them with a strong pair of scissors. But a saw will probably make the nicest, cleanest cut. Chopsticks are usually, depending on which kind you get, usually in the range of around 10 inches, which is a good wand size. Gives you enough room for your hand and enough room to put stuff on it.